The ultimate reality show. What would be your favorite of the reality shows that are out there? There are a lot to choose from, and I think it depends, obviously, on your interests. Are you someone who's into competition and survival? Are you into transformation and achievement? Do you enjoy the search for connection? For example, couples? Or are you a fan of those docu-soap dramas that everybody considers maybe guilty pleasures? Because there are a lot of reality shows for you to choose from. Now, I'm not a huge reality show fan for most of the things I've mentioned, but I have watched things like House Hunters, Ghost Adventures, and basically any show on HGTV would be considered a reality show in some ways. And a reality show is actually an unscripted show that may be heavily manipulated. So, what we consider reality versus what the show considers reality may be two different things. And like I said, there are many, many shows to choose from. There are shows like Love Island, which would fall under the search for connection. There's Big Brother, which I think would be the docu soap drama kind of voyeuristic situation. Couples therapy, that would be, well, it could be a search for connection. It could be a drama, or a show like Cake Boss, which would be probably either a competition or maybe achievement. America's Got Talent, a very popular show. That would be definitely competition and probably transformation and achievement as well. Now, these shows have been on for many, many years. For example, Big Brother has 28 seasons. Love Island has 8. Couples Therapy has 5. Cake Boss has 10. America's Got Talent has 21. And I don't know how House Hunters is counting their seasons, but they say they have 275. Unless they're counting an episode as a season or maybe a handful of episodes as a season, I don't know how they figured that one out. But the commonality between all these shows is that they deal with people. Normally, they're considered to be your average person. They have been cast because they look a certain way or they fulfill a certain portion of what the show is hoping to accomplish. For example, a show like Cake Boss, you would look for somebody maybe who is a baker to show off their talents. Or on America's Got Talent, you could be somebody who has a random weird talent that isn't really marketable. But if you make a name for yourself on a show like America's Got Talent, it could lead you to a career. And on shows like House Hunters, they're looking for people specifically who want to buy a new house, obviously. They could be singles, they could be couples, they could be families. And they're casting what we would consider to be average people, just like us, so that we have a feeling of connection with them. And they then put these people into situations. The show is based on a specific premise. And if it is a show dealing with multiple different people, for example, something like Love Island, they're going to look for people who maybe don't get along very well so that they can build up some drama. So in many ways, even though the show is unscripted, it is manipulated because of the choices of who to cast, because of the basic premise of the show. Maybe the people who are participating in the show are put somewhere. For example, Survivor, they're put out in the middle of a wilderness or on an island or something. And they then have to try to survive the competition. And this is what makes it interesting, because our idea of reality versus the producer's idea of reality are two totally different things. But viewers still love reality shows. And the reasons are that people just love to watch psychological drama, they love to watch social dynamics in action, and just overall, we love drama. I'm so sorry. And that is why these reality shows have been so popular. It's our human desire to voyeuristically watch people in certain situations. And while we're watching these shows, I think many of us like to put ourselves in the place of one of the people who's involved in the reality show. So instead of watching other people and their drama or their manipulated drama, I challenge you to think of your own life as a reality show, because the ultimate reality show is life. And we are all cast members in this great adventure known as life. Each one of us is the main character in our own ultimate reality show, but our reality shows overlap and aren't really manipulated in the way that television reality shows are. So anything can happen. It is a great big free for all. And that's why I think it's fun to consider the idea that if your life is a reality show, how would you count your seasons? For example, in my case, I consider each year of my life to be a season of my reality show. So next month, I will be starting my 63rd season, or my 64th season, depending how you count birthdays. And there are some seasons that I don't remember, obviously. My very early years, I have few memories of those years, even though I was participating in this grand adventure called life. But from the earliest times I can remember, I can go back and rerun some of the things that have happened to me and think about how they would play out if they were a reality TV show, or how they would have played out as a reality reality TV show. So if I think back to maybe when I was in elementary school, and at that time I was basically going to school and then I would come home and watch reruns. So my life was pretty boring, and I often put myself in the position of the characters I watched on TV. And thinking back, I would not have any really memorable episodes to rerun from that period of time. However, the things that happened to me, the TV shows that I consumed, the books I consumed, what I learned from other people, all of that helped mold me into the adult that I've become. So even though I don't consider those early seasons of my life to be all that exciting, they did play a big part in the later seasons of my show. And I think many of us who are fans of television know that the first season of a show can be rough. So obviously, my first year or two is not memorable to me. And I'm sure it was rough for my parents, because having had kids of my own, I know that taking care of a young person in the beginning of their life is very time consuming and exhausting. So even though I don't remember those seasons, they do help mold me into the person that I am. And they did lead to some adventures in later seasons of my life, things that I do think I would like to repeat, that I might like to try again, or things that maybe I would never like to try again would like to fix somehow. So thinking about our lives as a reality show can be a very interesting challenge, and it can be a lot of fun. And since today is a holiday for many people, it is a day off for those of us who are given a 3-day holiday for Memorial Day for the observation. Then we may be just quietly sitting at home and having a boring afternoon because we didn't feel like working. And if that's the case, if you're not caught up in a TV show or a book or a movie, or if you're not out at a family barbecue or something along those lines, take a few minutes and think about what you've been doing, where you are in your life, and try to frame what's happening to you as if it were a reality TV show, because I guarantee you will come up with some interesting, probably unique ideas because we're all so very different. And based on where we live, based on our age, based on our, you know, interests, we can come up with some really strange combination of things that might happen to us, or we may have had strange things happen to us for a variety of reasons. And those can be not only fun for you to recall, but they can be fun for other people to discuss. So the next time you get together with your friends, for example, if you're at a party, say, hey, I'm thinking about my life as a reality show. If you were to do the same thing, what would you call your show? What would be the favorite season of your show or the favorite episode? I mean, how are your episodes defined? Is it a day in your life? Is it a week in your life? There are so many different ways to look at your life as a reality show. And like I said, the ultimate reality show is life, because there are so many random things that can happen to us throughout the course of a day. No matter what we plan to do, something can come up that will just throw you completely off your trajectory for the day. Maybe you were scheduled to get up and go to work, but you got up, you had breakfast, and then your car won't start. So what happens at that point? Do you have to take your car into the shop? Do you leave your car and hitch a ride with somebody else? Do you find an Uber? Do you have public transportation? And once that has taken you off the normal routine of your day, what happens from that point on? Say your coworker picks you up, and maybe your coworker didn't sleep well and they're not in a great mood, and there's a road rage incident on the way into the office. So then, did your driver end up ignoring the person who made them angry, or did they make it worse? Did it snowball? Did you then end up being later to work because you were caught up in an incident where maybe you had a fender bender, and then you had to deal with, exchanging insurance, and then by the time you get to the office, everybody's in a terrible mood, and you had a meeting that you missed, and now your boss is mad at you. It snowballs. So think about think about what you have planned for tomorrow. Sit down and think about, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. And then think about, what if a monkey wrench is thrown into my plans for tomorrow? And what decisions might I make based on my past experience? Because, obviously in my case, if I got up and my car didn't start, I would have been able to walk to work because I was a 15-minute walk away. So I wouldn't have been that late. As long as I left early enough, I would maybe be 10, 15 minutes late. Once I got to work, I might be in a bad mood because of my car, but probably not as bad a mood as if I had to maybe commute to another city for my job, which would have been a totally different experience. And then say I find out that my car is not just not starting, but it's trashed. Something happened to the engine, it's just, there is no way to fix it. Then what happens? And the drama builds from there. So even if you are doing what I tend to do a lot during the evening, which is sit in my recliner and maybe scroll social media or watch a show or a movie or read a book, that seems like it would be pretty calm and soothing and relaxing. But for example, maybe I'm doing that and the neighbor kids, for example, this happened the other night. This startled me. So normally I head for bed 8:30. I don't go to sleep until about 10, but normally I'm heading for bed by about 8 p.m. And I'm enjoying the end of a show, and there's a knock on my door. And I'm not expecting anybody, and it's completely freaked me out because I'm not expecting anybody. So I go tell my husband someone's at the door. I'm not even dressed anymore. I don't want to go to the door in my pajamas. So he goes to the door, and actually it's the neighbor kids, which no big deal. They threw their ball into the yard and they just want to retrieve it. But what if it wasn't the neighbor kids? What if some random person knocked on your door in the middle of the night? For example, I've seen a lot of Ring camera footage, which I don't know how realistic a lot of it is, but of random drunks showing up on people's front doorstep, or just belligerent neighbors or something. What if it wasn't the kids next door? What if it was maybe another neighbor who was in the middle of a domestic dispute and they've come over because they want to use our phone, which that obviously is showing my age because most of us have a cell phone. But say someone ran from their house, they didn't take their cell phone, and they want to borrow ours, because usually in the old days it would have been a landline. Anyway, the point is, what if it wasn't the kids? What if it was a neighbor? There was a domestic dispute going on, and somehow or other we get embroiled in the neighbor's drama. The police become involved, and it snowballs. So my quiet evening of watching TV doesn't end up being quite so quiet. And I often like to do things like this. I often like to think about the things that I've done in the course of a day and reframe them, because I'm a writer, and that helps me come up with story ideas, and it helps me work out story ideas. So I do like to put myself in the position of having other things happen to me, or put myself in the position of someone where I've heard a story and I try to figure out how I would have responded if that had happened to me. And I think overall, just thinking about our lives as a reality show and realizing that we are the ultimate unscripted reality show can be a lot of fun. So I challenge you today, if you've come across this video, if you watched this video, I challenge you to think about your life as a reality show. What would you call your show? How would you determine your seasons, the length of your seasons? Would you have specific episodes that you would like to rerun in your life? What do you have planned for the future, and how could that go haywire? There are so many ways that could go wrong or right. We never know. But I think this is a good exercise for anybody who, especially if you're in a place in your life and you really feel like maybe you haven't accomplished much, you're not happy with the direction your life is going, that you wish you'd made other decisions. Think about maybe the days that you would not want to repeat. Go back and try to make a different decision and play that out in your head and figure out if your life would have ended up any better if you had made the different decision, or if maybe whatever ended up happening was a good thing in the long run, because we all learn from our challenges, and we all, I think, experience things differently. So what may be a good thing for one person may not be for another. And think about your life in those ways. Reframe your life in those ways. Especially if you are a fan of reality TV shows, I encourage you to think of your life as the ultimate reality show. And remember all of the different things that can happen that can throw off your day, your week, your month, your year, for good or bad. And then think about all the other people around you, because they're going through their own version of a reality show. And it's good to think about the things that might be affecting them, because we don't really know what someone else has gone through when they're having a bad day. And, maybe they lash out at us for a random reason, like we took too long in the doorway. We paused for a moment to check our phone or something, and they get angry. Are they angry because we paused in the doorway, or is there something else going on with their life? So, we have so many interconnected reality shows going on this world right now that may or may not intersect with each other. And think about all the different variables that can come together to change the course of each of our days. And I think that can be one of the most fun challenges ever. There is no way anyone could produce a reality show like that. I think often of the movie The Truman Show, which was considered a reality show about someone who did not know that they were being viewed, and basically everything around them was a construct. They were taken as a child and put into a bubble. And what the creator and producer of the show did not realize was that this person was going to have free will, was going to have their own thoughts and ideas about things, and was eventually going to begin questioning what was happening around them. So even though The Truman Show was supposed to be a reality show, it was manipulated heavily. And I'm talking about the show within the movie. And eventually Truman kind of broke out of the reality show because he wanted to live his own life. But what Truman and everyone else in the show wouldn't have realized was that each one of them was participating in their own reality show. Oh, if you think about that, that will maybe break your brain. There are so many different ways to view life. If you think about something like The Matrix, again, it's a constructed reality for people who are being used to feed the machine that is these, overlords that basically humans created and they took over. There are just so many different ways to think about reality, to think about life, and to just think about the world around us. So even though I didn't mean for this to go in a philosophical direction, it can't help but happen, considering we are talking about life. We are talking about the ultimate reality show. So again, if you have followed along on this video and you are now thinking about your life as an ultimate reality show, please put in the comments what you would call it, how you would define your seasons, and what would be your favorite episodes. And I think it would be fun for anyone who may stumble across this to see other people's responses, because like I said, there are so many different ways to look at things. We each have our unique unique perspectives on the world. And if you have stumbled across my video and you are interested in something of a reality show, my daily The Life of a Writer 2026 playlist is mostly unscripted. I did make a few notes today because I was talking about specific shows, but normally I just talk about what happens to me throughout the course of a day and what I'm thinking about. So in a sense, these videos are my version of a reality show. And if you're interested in seeing what a retired public servant turned full-time writer is up to, I encourage you to follow along, because I never know from day to day what's going to happen. And even though I may find some things rather boring, other people may not, because we do live in different places and we do different things. And it can be a lot of fun to learn about other people's lives. So if you have stumbled across this and you're interested in, like I said, something of a reality show, then I encourage you to follow along on my channel. And I do post daily videos, at least for 2026. I've done some playlists because I am a writer. So I have one on fast drafting, one on editing, and I will be continuing to do those things throughout the course of the year because I have a couple of books coming out, and I'll talk more about that, or you can find previous videos where I've talked about that. But in the meantime, I thank you for joining me today through this weird landscape that is my mind. And I hope that what I've thought about maybe will inspire you to think about your own life a little differently and to maybe try some adventurous things to spice up your life if you feel it's gotten a little bit boring. Because if you are the producer of your own reality show, then you can manipulate that however you want to. It may not work out the way you hope because things happen, but it can be an interesting exercise to give it a try. So, thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow, maybe. In the meantime, I'm Cassidy Carson, and this is the ultimate reality life of a writer. Take care.